The rainforests of Ecuador are a treasure trove of biodiversity.
Nothing is more important than harmony between people and nature.
But that harmony has been disrupted here by human greed, especially oil drilling.
It's a disaster. We have huge problems.
Several courageous women have decided to fight the exploitation of their homeland by setting up a small radio station. They're speaking out for nature conservation and justice. Two of the radio reporters are returning to their roots. Mariana Canelos and Hihun Uyunkar live in the city, but they grew up here in the rainforest. Right now, they're on their way to interview some local residents for an upcoming broadcast. Their radio programs are very popular in this region. They're being accompanied by Jana Biaviat, a student from Cologne, Germany. Jana is working with the Fridays for Future movement to help protect the rainforest. Almost half of Ecuador is covered in rainforest. The reporter's journey begins in the town of Puyo. They'll travel for 7 hours by boat along the Bobonaza River. Their final destination is the community of Sarayaku, deep in the Amazon rainforest. There are a number of important stories for the reporters to cover here. The region is home to the Quechua people. For years, they've been fighting against oil drilling on their land. Right now, it's quiet here, but that will change soon with the start of a big festival that celebrates the importance of the rainforest. Here, Mariana and Hihun meet their friend Rupai Sisa. Now the reporting team is complete. Today they'll start by recording some of the ancient songs that are sung by local women. These songs include stories of sorrow and longing. And this one, in which a woman turns into a jaguar because she's been rejected by her lover.
Well, that's it.
Some of the songs speak of the invisible forces of nature.
In our radio broadcasts, we want to talk about the lives and emotions of women. Traditionally, women in the Amazon region don't often get the chance to speak up. Men do most of the talking. That has to change. We indigenous women need to learn to communicate. And our microphones are a fantastic way for us to do that.
The women of the rainforest fear that their homeland will be destroyed. Now they're fighting back. In 2017, they organized a march in Ecuador's capital, Quito, to protest against the oil companies and the policies of the government.
Women have been protecting rainforest diversity for more than 1,500 years.
That was also the day that Mariana, Hihun, and Rupai launched the first digital women's radio station in this region. The programs are spoken in Spanish and also indigenous languages, so that people in remote areas can understand them.
We want our programs to provide a forum for women in the Amazon region. We'll try to reach all of them, whether they live in cities or deep in the rainforest.
The broadcasts are designed to shake up the status quo and call attention to the dangers that the rainforest and its inhabitants now face. There are huge oil reserves here, but the exploitation of this resource poses a real threat to the environment. In Sarayaku, a community fishing event is taking place today. The broadcasters are fascinated by the way the fish are caught, using a poisonous plant called barbasco.
Lots of people grow it in their gardens. It contains a natural anesthetic that wears off after 2 hours. Barbasco doesn't contain any chemicals, and it doesn't kill worms or microorganisms. The villagers only catch the fish that are close by. The other fish might be briefly affected by the anesthetic, but they just swim away.
The women put the fish that they've caught into baskets. Mariana and Hihun help out with the catch. The courageous efforts of the Quechua women prompted one oil company to cancel its drilling projects in this area. In 2003, another company used explosives to search for petroleum near a Quechua village without warning the residents. Some of the villagers filmed the blasts. There were protests, and the government responded by sending troops to the region. Some of the local women seized the soldiers' weapons. The demonstrations eventually forced the troops to leave. The Quechua sued the government to try to stop these oil extraction efforts. The video evidence featured in the lawsuit. A court ordered officials to consult with local residents on any future projects.
It was the women who seized the initiative. They took away soldiers' weapons, and that made a big impression on the local men. Since then, the women have been giving the orders around here. We hope that many other communities will follow this example. In our radio broadcasts, we've interviewed local women about how they took on this new role. Among my people, the Achuar, men really don't take women seriously yet. So it's still hard for us.
Samai Gualinga is on her way to meet Yana, who wants to find out how the local residents plan to protect their homeland in the future. Social media will play a key role in that effort. The village has already gone high-tech. For example, it gets much of its electricity from solar panels.
In the fight for our rights, it's young people who matter most. The younger generation is crucial for the survival of this region. They're the ones who will have to keep protecting the rainforest, so that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will also have a future.
A big festival will be held tomorrow. The local residents are preparing for it by decorating each other with traditional painted patterns. Mariana and Hihun also take part. They plan to do a special broadcast about the festival. Some of the local men have been out hunting to provide food for the celebration, and now they return, all dressed up for the festivities. It's an honor for the radio reporters to be allowed to join in. Many of the men wear animal skins as proof of their hunting skills. The festival brings together old friends from around the region. And for refreshment, there's chicha, a beer that's made from cassava roots. The local residents celebrate their hard-won self-confidence. They want to show politicians and corporations that they are determined to prevent the destruction of their environment. The festival also celebrates the importance of respect for nature.
In our radio broadcasts, we want to show how the villagers live. We want to feature their traditions and celebrations, which highlight the close connection between them and their environment. We also want to show how much these people enjoy life.
But the reporters don't shy away from criticizing one aspect of the festival. Hundreds of wild animals are killed to provide food for the guests. Preserving their traditions while protecting the environment can be a balancing act. That's why the village has decided the festival will take place every 5 years instead of every year. In the evening, Mariana and Hihun compare the recordings that they've made so far. They grew up in the rainforest, and their experiences inform their work. The two reporters agree that it will be up to the region's young people to preserve the region's fragile ecosystem. But will this generation stay here or move to the towns and cities? And what's the best strategy for preserving the natural environment? In this village school, children learn about their environment and heritage. Right now, the children are making environmentally friendly necklaces. The teachers emphasize the importance of language instruction.
We use 2 languages in class, Quechua and Spanish. Quechua is the local language, and we teach some topics like the natural sciences in Spanish. That way, the students become familiar with 2 different cultures.
They're singing this song in Quechua. The next morning, the reporters set out again. Canoes are usually the only way to travel long distances deep in the rainforest. It takes 2 days to travel from Sarayaku to the Pastaza River on the border with Peru. The destination is the remote village of Huachirpas. The government also wants to drill for oil here. The region is home to the Achuar people, and they've been fighting oil extraction projects for 5 years. Like the other indigenous peoples in this part of Ecuador, they believe that drilling will damage the environment and their way of life. Their fears are justified. In many places, the pipelines used to transport the oil have rusted and broken open, like here in the north of Ecuador. The region's hot and humid climate causes many pipes to deteriorate. The oil that leaks out poisons the forests and rivers, and it's almost impossible to clean it up. The radio reporters talk to local residents about how to prevent this kind of damage.
Whenever people talk about fighting back against the oil companies, they bring up Sarayaku. The people there proved that you can protect your region against exploitation. That was a major event and set a great example for all indigenous peoples.
The women of Huaxirpas have not yet developed the kind of self-confidence that helped create the opposition movement in Sarayaku. At first, some of the villagers are wary of the women radio reporters, so Hihun and Mariana try to get to know them and win their trust. That includes playing with the children in the schoolyard.
The great thing about these kinds of visits is that you always learn something new. For example, when the kids play tag here, one has a jaguar and the other's a deer that the jaguar is trying to catch. These people are so creative. We've had lots of fun this afternoon.
Now that the ice has been broken, the reporters can start making recordings for their broadcast. They capture the details of everyday life in the village, making ceramic artworks, working in the fields, and putting the children to bed. The local women often talk about the importance of the rainforest. In almost all aspects of their lives, they take their cue from nature. The villagers' existence and their outlook on life is shaped largely by their spirituality and by their dreams and visions. This concept extends even to daily chores, like harvesting cassava plants. For Hihun and the other members of the Achuar community, the cassava represents more than just food.
We women sing a song to the mother of all plants. The lyrics go like this: I plant these seeds with the purity of my hands, and you give me a bountiful harvest. We sing this song to protect the cassava seeds and to ask for a big crop.
The coronavirus pandemic has disrupted Ecuador's economy. As a result, the government has come under more and more pressure to step up the exploitation of the oil resources in the rainforest. That's made life more difficult for indigenous peoples. The people of this community work together to achieve common goals, like building a house. They take the same collective approach to fighting government efforts to drill for oil in the rainforest. The Achuar people follow a traditional division of labor. The men not only build houses, they're also responsible for weaving the baskets that women use to harvest the cassava roots. In the evening, the reporters interview the village elder, Don Guido. At one point in the conversation, he describes the day that the first Christian missionaries arrived in this part of the country.
I was 10 years old at the time. I remember that one of the missionaries was Father Luis Bola from Italy. At first, the villagers were suspicious of these people, and we tried to drive them away. We were warriors after all. But after a lot of negotiating, the situation calmed down. Our village chief invited the missionaries to drink Guayusa tea with us. And then it just sort of happened. We converted to Christianity, and we've been following the Word of God ever since.
The ceremony that involves the drinking of Guayusa tea always takes place at dawn. Hihun remembers this ritual from her childhood.
When we drink Guayusa tea together, it's a time for parents, especially mothers, to give advice to their children. We also make plans together for the coming day and for the future. And we describe our dreams Because if you've had a bad dream, you want to find out why. The elders then tell us what the dream means and what we should do about it.
The people who live in the rainforest here believe that their environment is filled with symbols that represent the spiritual world. Here, Don Guido leads the 3 radio reporters to a sacred place where they'll take part in a purification ceremony.
This waterfall is the home of God, Arutan. He's our companion and advisor. When we need his help, we come here when the moon is full.
The first step in the ritual is to inhale some tobacco extract. Then, the reporters step under the waterfall.
That visit to the waterfall with Don Guido was one of the highlights of our trip. But I'll always remember the wonderful conversations that we had with the women of the Amazon villages. That gave me a lot of spiritual strength.
Jana, the student from Germany, accompanied the reporters throughout their travels in the rainforest. She says it's been a real learning experience.
I've seen a lot of the natural environment during my trip, from various river basins to remote parts of the Amazon rainforest. And when I think about the possibility of all this being destroyed in a few years, it just makes me sick. We need new policies to show people that they can't disrupt the environment. We have to live in harmony with nature. If we don't, life on this planet will no longer be possible.
Mariana, Hihun, and Rupai have organized a meeting of the women of Huashirpas. The radio reporters want to find out what they plan to do about efforts to drill for oil in the Achuar region. The villagers say they're worried about the possible impact on children and young people.
Once the company builds a road, the young people will leave. They'll go to the city to earn money. But there aren't many jobs there. What often happens is that many end up involved in sex work. Their dream of earning money turns into a nightmare.
The reporters want to use their radio program to raise awareness about these dangers and to help the people of the rainforest protect their rights and their environment.
We told the women here how the people in Sarayuku stood up to the oil companies. The women were very interested and asked us for advice on what they could do themselves.
Now it's time for Mariana, Hihun, and Rupai to return home. They've spent 2 weeks talking to local residents, most of them women. And now they have lots of new material for their broadcasts. The reporters have found a unique way to call attention to the problems that the people of the rainforest now face, including the ruthless exploitation of nature by big business and outdated roles assigned to women in these traditional societies. The reporters are convinced that for the Amazon rainforest to survive, the voices of the women of this region must be heard, and they will be, through their broadcasts.
This trip has given us a lot to work with, including the wonderful songs and the traditional games that the children play. We all learned a lot from each other, and now we're ready to tell the world about these people with our radio program.